gamers, this is Lamer Travis, and unfortunately, Rowdy 5000 is in another castle for today's episode of the Lamer Gamers podcast. But in today's episode, we're going to start with a news roundup where I'll let you know about the latest Animal Crossing Festivale update. Bowser's Fury is not quite as long-lasting as we hoped. EA's dark side finally caused them to lose the Force. Bethesda somehow managed to grab Indiana Jones's hat. Blizzard had some visions that are Vicarious, along with our now apparently regular Cyberpunk's Complaint Department, and the Lamer of the Week. We'll end the show with a special bonus point segment where we asked all you Lamers out there what your thoughts were about the GameStop Stock Controversy, and I'll do my best to explain both sides of this issue along with giving the opinions of multiple Lamers out there. Now, during the show today, expect to hear some commercials from our newest sponsors, and hey, here's one right now. Hey guys, this is Phoenix from Immortals Phoenix Uprising, another great Ubisoft game I wanted to tell you. And there are around 60 hours of gameplay that you... Hey guys, this is Phoenix from Immortals. Okay guys, sorry about that. It seems that our first sponsor didn't save correctly because the Ubisoft online service crashed again, causing the save to be corrupted. I tried to start it over again, but Rowdy's not here this week. I don't know how to do the editing right, and I just didn't have the heart to keep trying. I mean, it's a little bit like my current experience with Immortals Phoenix Uprising last week, where I played the game for 4 hours and then I lost 3 hours of my life I'll never get back because it got corrupted. Anyway, let's get back to your regularly scheduled Lamer Gamers podcast. Cue the music. Now, before I press the start button on the news, if you like what we're doing, don't forget to press up, up, down, down, left, right, be a start. Then like and subscribe on your current podcasting provider. Also, check out @LamerGamersCast on Twitter and share the show with a Lamer you know. Now, last time we did a side quest, so there's been a ton of news, but... honestly, you've probably read most of it. So just like we've been doing at the beginning of the show, I want to focus on news that makes me happy. And well, just makes everybody happy. You know what makes everyone happy? Animal Crossing updates. So let's talk about what's happening in Animal Crossing right now. There is a new seasonal event, Festivale, which has been added. It will actually start on February 15th, but apparently there is a new animal, Pave the Dancer, which is pretty much just a super fancy peacock, and it gives you stuff and it dances and stuff, but that's exciting because, yeah. Anyway, so they're also going to be adding limited time seasonal items from Nook Shopping. Now, they also, because updates tend to have stability fixes, they fixed an issue preventing players from receiving the mermaid fence recipe from Pascal. Other adjustments and corrections were made to improve the gameplay experience. So, if you are a current Animal Crossing player, it's time to go check it out. If you haven't played in a while, I haven't played this game in a while. I'm wondering how, I made Lake Texas out there. I wonder how many roaches are in Lake Texas. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe we need to stream a little like Animal Crossing cleanup, because I think Rowdy's actually been playing it, but my poor Nintendo Switch just has not been used a whole lot lately. But let's keep on going with the Nintendo Switch news. Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. We have a PSA. Because Nintendo doesn't want us to have too much fun lately, it seems. First up, the Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. It's going to be good, right? It's going to be full price, though, which I'm a little annoyed about. It does include the original game, so if you've never donned your fancy Mario cat suit and pranced around fighting Bowser, then you probably will have a good time. Granted, I do have some serious concerns about why you are running around in a cat suit cosplaying as Mario, cosplaying as a cat in real life. I actually just meant on the game, but I digress. For those of us, though, that have played this game back on the Wii U, it might not be worth it. You know, when you think of extra content, especially extra content with lots of advertising on it, you know, Bowser's Fury, it's going to be intense. It's only going to be 3 hours of gameplay. I'm a little bit saddened by that because I really enjoyed Super Mario 3D World back on the Wii U. Now, honestly, there wasn't a whole lot of reason to play it on the Wii U versus Switch. But at the same time, there's not going to be a whole lot of reason to play this since I've already beaten it. And I don't think I want to pay $60 for 3 hours of gameplay because just there's so many other things I can play right now. But let's go ahead and talk about, though, if you've never played it before, it's good stuff. So try it out. But let's hear what's actually in Bowser's Fury. Nintendo says, in Bowser's Fury, Mario arrives on Lake Lapcat. This game is definitely for cat people. And is confronted with a rampaging Bowser. Join forces with Bowser Jr. and venture through an interconnected world made of cat-themed everything. Enemies, flowers, and even birds take on a feline form. So I guess if you really like cats, this is the game for you. Need some extra assistance bringing Bowser out of his frenzied, furious state? Another player can take control of Bowser Jr. and help out by attacking enemies and storing power-ups. 2 sets of claws are better than 1. Sounds interesting. Little too much cat for me. I'm more of a dog person. Currently have way too many dogs at my house. But so what do you think? Do you plan on picking this up? I was thinking I would scoop it up later on sale in the future. You know, like a decade from now in the future, maybe, whenever it's on sale. Do they even go on sale a decade from now? Maybe not even then. Do they even sell Nintendo games at discount prices? I probably going to pay full price for this stupid Cat Bowser add-on, I guess, because I'll play it eventually. Anyway, let's move on. Next up in the news, not Nintendo news, Indiana Jones is now apparently going to be made, games are going to be made by Bethesda. So this was on Bethesda.net. Today, Lucasfilm Games and Bethesda Softworks announced a new Indiana Jones game being developed by the award-winning studio Machine Games and executive produced by game industry icon Todd Howard. Now, that's incredibly glowing, right? Well, I'm reading this from Bethesda.net, so it's going to be dripping with Todd Howard praise. Not everyone's too thrilled with the Todd lately. All right, the standalone adventure, starring the legendary archaeologist, will tell a wholly original tale set at the height of the career of the famed adventurer. Now, there haven't been a lot of details released about this. Apparently, Bethesda released a quote-unquote cryptic teaser that may hold some clues. So when we look at the teaser, you see some books that say Ancient Circle, Jubilee, Forbidden Stones, some various books, some drawings of some tank-looking things, a coffee cup, and, you know, you can go look for it. It's on Bethesda's website, or Bethesda's Twitter. Now, they added, because they just love talking about Todd Howard. Todd is a lifelong indie fan and has been trying for over a decade to make this game, said Pete Hines, SVP of Global Marketing. He's beyond excited to work with the award-winning Machine Games team, a perfect fit for indie. Now, I haven't played a lot of Indiana Jones game. I know there are some games that were really popular a long time ago with Indiana Jones. Let me know if there's a game you find interesting that's an Indiana Jones game. Maybe this will be the one that does it. Movie games to me just really are never that good, but there still are some good ones. Speaking of movie games, it seems that the dark side has finally affected EA. They are losing exclusivity rights to the Star Wars games. So this is from Business Insider. Apparently, since 2013, the only company to make Star Wars games has been EA. So what happened was they lost. Well, they didn't really lose it. The exclusivity agreement is apparently done. But now there has been an announcement from Ubisoft that there's going to be a brand new story-driven open world Star Wars adventure. And it's going to be made by the same studio that produced The Division 2. Now, this does not mean that Ubisoft gets exclusivity, and it doesn't mean that EA has stopped, choke holding, mentally choke holding the Star Wars franchise. They're still going to make games, and there is supposed to be a sequel to what is supposed to be a fantastic game, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is made by EA and Respawn Entertainment. So expect that this is still going to go on, but Ubisoft is going to take and apply the, Ubisoftian philosophy of video games, which is make a massive giant game with 1 million things that you can collect and run around and do stuff forever, then drop DLC, but have bugs and stuff that, corrupt your saves. Yeah, it's kind of complex. So I am kind of excited to see that. I've been pretty happy with some Ubisoft games. The bugs are killing me on Immortals Phoenix Uprising. I'm probably saying it out of order. I don't like the title of that game, but it's fun for the time that I played it. But as you heard with our commercial right at the beginning, I haven't had much luck with save files. And if I lose like 3 hours of a very story-based game, or in this case, I just got to the title screen in Immortals, and it wouldn't save. It kept saying game file corrupted. I tried like 4 or 5 times. I played for another 10 minutes, tried it again. I tried using the auto save function or the quick save function, whatever it is. No luck. Whenever I booted up the game, I was stuck way at the beginning. And I know the game is not super linear, or at least I don't think it is. But the fact that I lost those 3 hours during a very linear part of the game kind of annoys me. I hope Ubisoft does a little bit better in the future with this, because it sucks. Anyway, next up, on Xbox news, YouTube now has HDR support. Now, I'm personally excited about it. I have a Series X. I've been using this for most of my streaming content. It's just generally snappier. I have a Samsung TV that, oh gosh, the Samsung TVs have gotten ridiculous lately. I don't know if you own a Samsung TV, but if you drop the remote or you accidentally hit, I don't know what button it is, but it goes to some sort of special free Samsung junk TV that always plays car shows. I'd much rather use the Xbox at this point. It's snappier in general. Now I get my YouTube in HDR. I'm currently watching things on Hulu and Discover Plus, which Discover Plus is good stuff. Fairly good price, and it's not total junk TV, just some junk TV. But a lot of good stuff from the Discovery channels. All right, let's go ahead and move on to PC gaming news. I'm flying through this today. Steam. Did you guys know that Steam was popular? Well, they apparently reached a new record. They had 25 million concurrent users for the first time. So that means everybody was online at the same time at the beginning of this year. So I guess everybody decided, and that was like right around January 1st. I guess nobody could go out and see fireworks. There was no fun allowed to be had. on New Year's Eve. So I guess everybody just went and played some games on Steam, and a lot of people got there. So that's pretty cool to see that being such a big thing. I'm curious. I don't use the Epic Store very much. I know Rowdy is a big Epic Store fan. I'm curious what their numbers are, or in general, how big PC gaming has gotten to be. Like, I know us console nerds out here just aren't as good as the PC folk, but I'm curious to see what is the number of all these different platforms at the moment. All right, guys, I think that's too much good news. I got so much good news right off the bat. Let's get to some news, some not so great news to calm things down. So we have a news bulletin. It appears that we have reports from Twitter that Blizzard has absorbed Vicarious visions, not unlike a massive amorphous alien jelly-like life form that eventually took over the town, eating everything in its path in the classic 1958 movie The Blob. Sorry, I had to go with my old school news anchor voice. But from Jason Schreier on Twitter and Bloomberg.com, apparently Blizzard, can't even say the name right. Blizzard is absorbing Vicarious visions. I like the term absorbing here. So what's been going on is apparently Vicarious Visions has been working on a Diablo 2 remake. Now, we heard that there was a remaster of Diablo 2, but that was apparently going really well. Now, there are multiple teams that are working on Diablo things, right? So there's Team 1, Team 2, and Team 3. I don't know if this is like you remember the old school days and the X-Men? Some of y'all might be too young to know this, but there was like a gold team and then whatever the other team was that had Wolverine on it, but it was better because Wolverine was on it, right? So I wonder if like what these teams do or what's interesting about them. But there was a Team 1 that was Blizzard's classic team was actually dismantled. Okay, so it says on here, Team 1 was responsible for StarCraft 2, Heroes of the Storm, StarCraft Remastered, and Warcraft 3 Reforged, which was basically, having issues because of unrealistic deadlines created by financial pressure is what Mr. Schreier says. Now, its next project was going to be the Diablo 2 remake. Well, last year, apparently Blizzard got rid of the Diablo 2 remake from Team 1 and gave it to Team 3, which is the Diablo 4 team, which is now overseeing this Diablo 4 game and working with Vicarious Visions on the project. So we'll see what goes on with this. I'm a little concerned. Little concerned. Because now Diablo 4, I have issues with how mobile it's getting, what they're going to do with it. If it's going to be too MOBA-like, but maybe it's a good thing that Vicarious Visions is jumping over since they've been working on the Diablo 2 remake. Or it could just kind of taint the waters, so to speak, of what's going on for both of these games. I don't know. What do you think? I still love my Diablo 3. I've heard that the new Diablo is going to have a better use of the weapons, but we saw what happened with Diablo 3 where they just kind of, a couple years later, it just got to where you're so dependent on sets that that's really the only way you can play now. I don't know. All right, guys, I think it's time to move on to our apparently very common Cyberpunk Complaints segment. Now, this has a sponsor. It's brought to you by a new service called Waiting. Did you want to buy a console but you don't want to pay scalpers double the price? Just wait! Eventually the supply will increase and you'll miss out on all the fun everyone had waiting for new games to come out. Did you pre-order a game 3 years ago and were expecting to play it on the first day? Well, you get another opportunity to wait while it downloads and installs the day one patch. Did you finally start playing that game and expect it to not be filled with bugs? Well, we have great news for you. You just paid the low price of $69.99 plus tax to have your anticipated game sit on the shelf collecting dust for a minimum of a year before it's playable. Isn't that fantastic? This year you have all the waiting, which is provided by us. All right, guys, let's go on to the Kotaku is reporting that in Cyberpunk 2077, in the latest update, in patch 1.1, there is a new game-breaking bug. So they say that patch 1.1 was supposed to have fix an issue in the mission down on the street where a character named Takamura would not call. So what would happen is you would call Takamura, which, I mean, that phone rings all the freaking time in that game. Well, whenever you call him, he never says anything, and it can't go anywhere, and you're just kind of stuck. So they have found, though, that there is a workaround from CD Projekt Red. They said if you run into this bug, load up a save file from before you and Takamura leave Wakako's office. You'll wrap up with your chat with him immediately and skip ahead 23 in-game hours, and that should do the trick. More waiting, it seems. All right, so and speaking of waiting, this whole segment is sponsored by the service of waiting. The update, I haven't played it. Like, my plan was to play Cyberpunk 2077 on the Series X and try it on each update. Well, I went through the list of things that were going on in the update, and it really had no focus on the Series X, or I think the Series S. I think it improved one little thing. But the Series X version runs okay. So I guess it's the less, like, it's not really being targeted at all because it's moderately competent. We'll just say that. It's not great. It's okay. It's not bad. I mean, it has some issues. I have ran into some issues with it, but it still looks decent. Well, it seems this update has improved frame rates just a couple frames per second on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. It's like you can almost regularly hit 30 frames per second now, which is good. Sure, it's playable. I mean, what do you expect, though? You look at older giant games on the original, well, not the original, on the Xbox One, on the PlayStation 4 at the beginning of its life, they didn't run too great. Skyrim is notorious for running bad on it. I mean, why do people expect this game to look a whole lot better than what we're seeing on those? I don't know. But that is our complaint department thing for today. Let's move on to something that's actually a little bit more fun. Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. Now, this segment is brought to you by, because we got more sponsors, right? We got sponsors everywhere. Which, by the way, January has basically been our biggest month ever. So thank y'all for sharing the show with the lamer you know. Thank you to ParallaxMedia.one, who puts our show up on their website. Thank you, Pandora, for sharing this show with everybody. But now let's get back to our sponsor, which is now the new Starbucks-inspired horror game, The Grande. Very similar to the Medium, by the way. Let's listen to a clip of the show. Hi, ma'am. Welcome to Starbucks. What can I get you?
Let's see. I'd like to order a medium.
We don't have mediums here.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? I only provide what the signs tell me. Do you see medium up on the sign?
So then, what is between a large and a small?
Look, lady, I can only interpret the signs that are given to me.
Fine then. If I look at these signs, it seems that the grande is the closest thing to a medium.
But it's not a medium. It's a grande.
Just give me a grande of pumpkin spice latte.
Okay, hold on just a second. Let me see. Oh. After consulting the signs from above, I'm afraid to tell you, we're out of pumpkin spice latte. So I hear that show is doing so well. They're already going to have a sequel called The Karening, Pumpkin Spiced Revenge. I wonder how many people have turned off this show after the weird sponsors. But anyway, let's get to the Game Pass and Games with Gold and PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus games update. Before we get into that, though, did you know Game Pass has 18 million subscribers now? That is insane, and it keeps growing. I think the last time we talked about this, they were only at 15 million. Only 15 million subscribers. Now, this is really interesting because if you look at streaming services in general, with movies and TV, Netflix and Disney Plus, a whole bunch of them are having some issues keeping subscribers because there are better deals elsewhere. And also, it used to be much more concentrated, right? Whenever it was just mostly Netflix and Hulu fighting it out, there were a lot of shows. Well, things like The Office have left to go to, Peacock and things like that. So you're seeing like a lot of concern going on for these other streaming services that are non-video game related. But those of us that are Xbox fans, PlayStation fans, these not really streaming services, but I guess game licensing services, I don't know how you want to say it, are doing fantastic. But not everything is so rosy. It's not that great. There has been a bit of controversy for the the Xbox lately. So Xbox Gold is basically useless, right? There's not a whole lot of purpose with Game Pass for Xbox Live Gold. So Xbox has been trying to squeeze you over to Game Pass because one, it's obviously the better service, but two, I think they're going to be there's much more reason to go over there, right? Well, there was a problem whenever they tried to do something that gently nudged you off the cliff of Xbox Live Gold and drop you into the, ravine that is Game Pass. So what happened was, I'll just read through this. So they put out a thing that says, hey, if you're an existing online 12-month or 6-month Xbox Live Gold member, there's no price change. So they tried to change the prices. Okay. Well, that ticked people off. Now, you could keep that membership and you just kind of kept on a pay system. It would keep the current price. But what happened was they changed the price of a gold membership, increasing it $1. And if it's a 3-month membership, they increased it $5. Now, that $1, I think, was, the 1 month. So what it meant was that 1 month, it would cost you $10.99. 3 months would cost you $29.99, and 6 months would cost you $59.99, or your local market equivalent. You know, I don't know what y'all do with your fancy weighted money over in England or your Canadian dollars and whatnots. So what ended up happening was the year membership for Xbox Live Gold was $60. It was like buying a game a year, essentially. Well, then they're changing the price to where it was $60 for 6 months, pretty much doubling the price. And that ticked off the internet. And you don't want to make the internet angry. You wouldn't like the internet when it's angry. So they did a very quick about face. Now, with this as a caveat, you could have always upgraded your gold membership to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Uh, it was like a 1-to-1 ratio there, too. If you had 12 months of gold membership you had purchased, well, whenever you converted it, it made it 12 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. It was a good deal, but it still works that way. Well, what it ended up happening was they messed up. This, of course, I mean, personally, I think this was kind of done on purpose. It was changed very quickly. But here's what Microsoft put out. The official "we're sorry" announcement. They said, "We messed up today, and you were right to let us know. Connecting and playing with friends is a vital part of gaming, and we failed to meet the expectation of players who count on it every day. As a result, we have decided not to change Xbox Live Gold pricing. We're turning this moment in an opportunity to bring Xbox Live more in line with how we see the player at the center of their experience. For free-to-play games..." Now, this is cool. Okay, this is cool, what I'm about to say. For free-to-play games, you will no longer need an Xbox Live Gold membership to play those games on Xbox. Now, in the couple of hours that Twitter was just throwing out the hate machine, that was the big thing, that was the meme they were showing, like, how much does it cost to play Fortnite on the PlayStation? It's free, because they don't require your service. On the Nintendo, it's free. On the Xbox, it's $120. Well, yeah. So, let's go ahead and continue this. As a result, we have decided not to change Xbox Live. Oh, I'm sorry. We are working hard to deliver this change, so they haven't done this yet, as possible in the coming months. Now, if you're on Xbox Live Gold member already, you're going to stay at your current price for renewal. So they basically, they brought the price back. And everybody's happy now, basically. But it's going to happen, guys. I still think Xbox Live Gold is going away. Or they're going to slightly raise the price and make the gold games a little bit better, which you're seeing in this month. They're not bad. And you know what those games are this month? Well, I'm not ready to tell you yet, because there's even more Xbox Game Pass controversy. See, there was going to be a game. This game was going to be Fall Guys. That's exciting, right? Fall Guys is good stuff. It's on the PlayStation. It's got an exclusivity agreement. Well, apparently the Instagram, because we all know that Instagram social media workers are the arbiters of all announcements and know all. They were talking back and forth with somebody that is called Hamed Pars Gamer. And they had just written, they put, "I want Fall Guys on Game Pass." Then Game Pass put, "It's coming," and then put little eyes looking at him. Well, that caused the internet bigwigs on Twitter, those that get all those Google searches, like Tom Warren, said Fall Guys is coming to Xbox Game Pass according to the official Xbox Game Pass Instagram account, which Devolver Digital and everyone connected to Fall Guys was like, no, that is incorrect. So Tom Warren asks, so it's coming to Xbox Game Pass for PC instead or not at all? And Devolver has replied, there are no plans for Fall Guys to come to any form of Game Pass. So we've seen this happen in the past, where a game, I think it was Control, was accidentally announced before the official announcement was ready. I think Fall Guys will end up coming to Game Pass, especially because it showed a lot of excitement when this happened. So we'll see. I'm still kind of on the fence. I think Fall Guys will come on over. But let's finally get to the Game Pass and PlayStation Now games. Sorry for making you waiting, but I mean, our sponsor just required us to make you wait today. All right, guys, so coming to the cloud, we have Outer Wilds. We have coming to the cloud, console, and PC. You have the rest of the Yakuza series. So they're adding Yakuza 3, 4, and 5. They have the other ones there already. These are the remastered versions. So if you haven't played Yakuza, or maybe you're looking to play Yakuza Like a Dragon, you want to know what's all going on before, it's a good time. Check them out. It's on Game Pass. Next up, we have Desperados 3. Desperados 3 is coming to cloud, console, and PC. I haven't played it yet. It looks cool. It's like a strategy game mixed with like a kind of a tactics and a sneaky sort of game. You're basically setting up your cowboys and you're robbing things like trains and whatnots. And you got to go around and you got to make sure you don't get caught. So it looks fun. There's a lot of good reviews for it. I'm curious how it looks. But the game that I really thought was interesting, it's a cute little game. It's fun. If you haven't played it, go play it. Donut County. It's such a good game. If it's basic, it's on cloud, console, and PC. And I think this is one of the games that would actually be pretty playable on cloud. Okay. It centers around a raccoon that has an app that makes holes in the ground. And every time that hole eats something, it gets bigger. And it's a fun little story. It's a good time. Your kids would probably enjoy it. I know my wife and I really enjoyed it. I would definitely suggest it. Now, I will say it's weird with the auto HDR. I played it on the Switch initially. And playing it on this, it definitely has a different look to it. Like some of the colors are more earthy than I expected. So just kind of an aside. Next up, we have Cyber Shadow, which is apparently an old school Nintendo style game, like a Ninja Gaiden or something. But you're a cyber ninja. It's on cloud, console, and PC. From what I hear, it is tough as nails. It apparently hits the mark. I know one of our listeners, Karkashan, had mentioned that it would hit the mark on these kind of old school NES games that were just tough. If you're interested in that, go for it, but I bet it plays terrible on the cloud. Next up, The Medium. The Medium is a horror game. It's more of a psychological puzzle game, to be honest, that is out by The Medium. Now, this is the first non-cross-gen game. You can't play it on the Xbox One. You can't play it on the Xbox One X even. It needs that solid state drive. And apparently it's hard to run on PC. It has some ray tracing in it and the reflections. I've played it for a couple of hours. So far, it's beautifully done. It's almost like watching a movie at times. It is a little slow. Don't go in this expecting it to be a Resident Evil or, an intense horror game. There are some small segments where it's really intense, but it's a engrossing story. The characters that are dead that you come across, like there's a little girl named Sadness, because she can't remember anything but that. She's really fun in the game. Then there's a giant demon monster that wants to wear you as a skin suit, which is not so fun. Now, I will say there are some glitches if you do play this game on the Series X. I think maybe the S. They are working on a fix to a bug that basically makes it look like your graphics card is failing. I thought, oh no, my monolith is going to have to go back in another box to get fixed. But apparently there's an issue where it's making some weird, just bright, happy colored artifacting. But it's a good time. It's got a big range of scores right now, from just 9 out of 10, 9s, 8s, all the way down to 5s. It's really got to be your kind of flavor, but I would suggest it. I'm having a good time with it. Next up, Control is hitting PC. Now, this is not the ultimate version or the next gen version. Control's already on Game Pass, but PlayStation is definitely getting the better version of Control, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And finally, games with gold this month that they say is $104 in value and 5060 in gamer score is pretty good. Games with gold in February is legit. The original Resident Evil, Dundara, which is the Tears of Fear edition. I didn't make a big enough screenshot on that one. Gears 5, which is fantastic if you have games with gold but don't have Game Pass. There's an Indiana Jones game from the original Xbox, The Emperor's Tomb, and then Lost Planet 2 from Xbox 360, which is a shooter. Good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff going on with Game Pass Game Pass and Games with Gold up in February. You know there's going to be new stuff too they haven't announced. So if you're paying $15 a month, you got the deal this month if you have time to play games. But let's talk about PlayStation Plus. They are coming out hot. The February games in PlayStation Plus are Destruction All-Stars, which, if you've heard Rowdy 5000 talk about it, he gives his 5,000 thumbs up. I don't know how that works, but it's like a crazy derby game that's like you're destroying cars and stuff. Also, they get the Control Ultimate Edition that is going to be the fancy ray traced version coming out here in the future. That's pretty cool. That's the better version that you don't get on Game Pass. It was on sale for Game Pass for like $15 last week. I'm really sad I didn't get it. And then Concrete Genie, which I think looked really cool. Like I'm looking at these games thinking, man, I kind of wish I had a PlayStation 5 because those are excellent games right there. And there are some more games that are coming out to PS Now. Unfortunately, I could not find them. We will see if I can get Rowdy, who is our PlayStation guru, to kind of help me out with that. All right, guys. So that is going to be it for the news. Let's move on to the Lamer of the Week. The Lamer of the Week is going to kind of be tied with bonus points today. It's going to be the not GameStop, the GameStop squeezing hedge funds and short sellers, forcing us to talk about politics in this podcast. Seriously, guys, I'm trying to have fun here and not put out my opinions about things because opinions are dangerous. Or at least that's what I'm told. Having a strong belief or maybe even an argument doesn't just seem to be allowed nowadays. Which is why we don't normally jump into these kinds of discussions. Also, as I've mentioned in the past, Rowdy and I don't always see eye to eyes in those realms, and we just don't we don't bother going there in a podcast. So it looks like though we're gonna be dragged into this discussion kicking and screaming. So let's go ahead, guys. When we hit the... we're going to jump right into bonus points because it's the same topic. So I want you to go ahead and sign into your throwaway Reddit account, pet your Dogecoins, and get ready to offload your $600 COVID relief paychecks because we're going to head down to Wall Street and buy some stonks. Bonus points are brought to you by Ganondorf on Wall Street. Check out this infamous, inspirational speech from our Dark Lord Ganondorf. See these gold little triangles? Let me let you in on a little secret about these little gold triangles. These Triforces, they're not going to find themselves. Without you, they are just worthless chests of trinkets. Like a trained moblin just waiting to fire an arrow. And in the case of the Triforce, it's up to each and every one of you. My highly trained moblin army. My killers who will take down Hyrule. You are my warriors who will not stop attacking Link until that stupid fairy listens to him cry and Link dies! Oh, yes, that was so inspirational. We can only hope that this bonus point segment will live up to the hype that Ganondorf has just inspired in all of us. All right, guys, before we get started giving out some bonus points, if you like what we're doing, drop on by our Twitter at LamerGamersCast and give us a follow. That way you can keep up with everything that's going on, and you can join in the fun by replying to the bonus points topics we post on our Twitter. All right, guys, so this segment is a little weird. It's one of those where we're going to talk a little bit about politics, but I'm going to try to keep it short and go over what both sides are saying right now. So what's happened is the GME stock, or the GameStop stock, I'm getting that all backwards, but anyway, is undervalued at the moment. Okay, we just had some consoles launch. The GameStop stock is actually pretty low for what it should be, and it's kind of artificially being lowered by what are called short sellers. Now, and hedge funds, which are part of this. Now, the concept of a hedge fund initially is something that hedges its bets, right? It's supposed to do a lot of safe things that just kind of even out and keep improving and improving. Well, what's happening is a lot of these hedge funds are kind of not so much rigging the system as they are, they found little tricks, kind of like whenever you have a fighting game that has one character that if you do this certain combo, it just will obliterate anything. It's kind of what's happened here. And it is slightly fixed because they have some abilities we don't have as regular folk that buy stock. Now, I found some examples of what's going on with this. I'm going to read from somebody else. This was sent to me, and I don't know the source. If you know the source, let me know. But, so this is their explanation, and it's what's going around online. First, you need to understand what a short is in trading. A short is when you borrow a stock from a broker and sell it immediately at its current price. So we can't do that, right? As a regular person, when we buy a stock, we got to deal with it. Well, back to this. Then you hope the stock's price falls such that you can buy the stock back at a lower price and return the shares you borrowed to the broker, but keep the difference. For example, let's say I want to short stock XYZ, which has a current price of $10. I borrow one share and sell it immediately at $10. I now have $10, but I actually owe that back to the broker for that share I borrowed, right? Well, let's say the price of that stock drops down to $7. So I decide to cover it, so I buy it back, my short position, and I buy one share at $7 and return the borrowed share to my broker. So I made $10 when I sold it and only had to pay $7 to buy it back whenever it was lower, so my profit is $3 difference. Well, now let's say that's what short selling really is. It's you get the magical ability to borrow a stock somehow whenever you're a hedge fund, and you can kind of play the game. It's almost like betting for failure for a company whenever you do this. Well, let's keep on going with what they're saying. But now let's say that instead of XYZ price dropping to $7, it instead goes up to $15. So that's not good, right? I still need to return the one borrowed share to my broker, except now it's going to cost me a lot more to buy it back. If I buy it back at $15 so I can return the borrowed shares, my losses will now be $5 difference between selling at 10 and rebuying at 15. Now, the problem comes in whenever this starts happening. The price can rise indefinitely. So my potential for losing money if I'm a short seller is just unlimited, right? It's the other way around. Like I only can gain so much money the other way. Now, at some point, I do have to buy it back. Now, I will say, outside of what they're saying here, I don't know what that time frame is. I don't know if there's special allowances for different people that I guess are considered. I guess if you're borrowing a stock, you have a line of credit somehow, right? So I don't know what that is. Anyway, at some point, I have to buy it back to return the shares I borrowed. The more the price rises, the bigger my losses. Now for GameStop. A few weeks ago, somebody, a Redditor they have this subreddit called Wall Street Bets. Okay, noticed that a hedge fund had taken a massive amount of short trades against GameStop. Now, I will say this, guys. What I'm reading is that they actually took out more trades than the entire worth of their stock, which I don't quite understand. That's pretty wild to me, but they were essentially they were hoping GameStop would just tank. I mean, they haven't been doing too great in the last couple of years. However, it's undervalued at this moment, right? Because it's a console launch. Consoles are still selling well. Anyway, so they convinced everyone on the thread at this subreddit to basically go in and buy as much GameStop stock as humanly possible. Now, this made the price rise, and it caused an issue with these hedge funds who were expecting the company to lose money so they could make money, because that's what they want. They want the company to do bad. But instead, the price of the stock kept rising. And it kept rising and rising even more, to the point where their losses, because they purchased so much stock, or well, they didn't purchase it yet. They borrowed the stock, right? And they paid right then. Anyway, they'd already started losing $13.1 billion just for that hedge fund. Okay, so it passed up what that hedge fund was worth at $13.1 billion. So at some point, they have to close their short position and buy all that GameStop stock back, but now at much higher prices. So when this happens, there's a term for it. It's called the short squeeze. So this squeeze, I mean, they just got squozen, right? They could not pay it back. And so the hedge fund that was dealing with this has declared bankruptcy. And now this Reddit thread is sensing blood in the water, right? So they're going around and they're trying to find all these hedge funds that are essentially betting against other companies. And I realize whenever I say betting against other companies, if you are on the opposite side of this, you probably think I'm kind of slanting what I'm saying here. And I guess you could say that's true to some extent. Now, what would be the other side? Because that's the side of the Redditors, or who you would consider the populist in this. They've been deemed populist. They've been called all sorts of things. It's really interesting to see, and without going super far into the politics behind it, who is supporting the hedge funds and who is against it. Because you have two very opposites in the political world right now that are both pretty much populist proponents. You have on the right, of course, the Trump supporters. You have on the left, the more Bernie Sanders styled supporters. And what's really interesting is you have a lot of the media right now claiming that everybody that's buying stock is somehow involved in Gamergate and they're equating it to something similar to the Capitol riot. It's a very colorful way of chastising you for being on the side of the hedge fund. I find it very illuminating, but I think I probably don't need to go too much further into that. But let's. So what I've seen is there is an article at the Washington Post, and I forgot to bring that up, but that is essentially on the side of these guys, where they say that there is a purpose for the short seller. Here we go. Opinion. The good guys in the... I would read it to you, but there are ads by Google whenever I pop this up. All right, let's try that again. the good guys in the GameStop story. It's the hedge funds and short sellers. Okay. Now, so this is by Sebastian Mallaby. Now, if you know anything about Washington Post, it's owned by Amazon. So, kind of keep in mind the flavor of opinions you have coming from here. But he's the author of More Money Than God, Hedge Funds and the Making of a New Elite. You would think that he'd be against that. But anyway, so in the article, he is essentially saying that he's claiming financial markets, I'll just start reading some of this, are usually stabilized by rational investors. If the crazies, who is apparently us, right? Because or the people that are on the side of the GameStopians are, if the crazies drive stocks to an absurd height, thoughtful people take the other side of the trade until prices reconnect with reality. The correction can be late and messy. It's hard to be thoughtful when markets are wild, but at least our culture generally applauds the partisans of rationality. Now, this is where what they're trying to say is that there are bubbles that happen, and it's part of the capitalist system, which I'm very much a proponent for. But these bubbles pop over time, and he's saying that they're just trying to keep all these people from making a bubble and popping and dealing with it. Well, what's happening really? He goes further on to say, so far this is different. The GameStop speculators are merely in a frenzy about one stock. Well, that's not completely true. They're also looking at GameStop. They're looking at a couple of other ones, and they all tend to have this kind of theme of favored stores when a lot of, I guess you would say millennials were younger. But their goal is to destroy the traders who link stock prices to fair value. To suggest a political analogy, they're not just blindly devoted to their candidate. Let's see, once again, they're trying to throw in a candidate. They want to tie this to people that are unpopular. They deny the legitimacy of the opposition party. They are not just acting within the system. They want to overthrow the system. It's as though they imagine a rabble gripped by conspiracy theories were to attack the rules of democracy itself. The name GameStop is apt. Now, the particular targets of GameStop crowd are hedge funds and short sellers. Well, yeah, we know that. So throughout the article, he basically goes into explain that they believe the short sellers are people who somehow get a little bit of knowledge of bad things going on in these companies, or the company's not doing well, and they essentially short sell stocks to help balance things out. Personally, I don't believe that's completely true, and looking at the stock right now, which is undervalued, in the time that the stock normally goes up, there's a lot of stories that you can find that basically go into where hedge funds go and tank companies. So in my mind, my personal opinion, now going into that I've gone into both sides, I can see that they're trying to keep the market stable to some extent. Well, now we have Robinhood, the investor from this investing group from a group called Citadel that's also involved. And where I'm finding issue is they're making special rules for the regular purchaser off this Robinhood app and others where you're not allowed to buy GameStop. They've stopped that. They only allow you to sell it. Now, this is, of course, maybe a way to balance things out in their mind, but it seems very unfair. There's a lot of people that want to spend their money how they want to spend it. There's a lot of people that have money that they're willing to kind of get rid of. I mean, we got $600 checks, and that's where I'm seeing a lot of these people are using stimulus pay to essentially do this, and it's not going to be a big drop for those of that are working full-time still that are lucky enough to do so. So they're willing to throw money into it. But at the same time, there are people that are willing to risk it, and they might know the shortfalls of it. And we're seeing stories right now in the news where you have kids that are making enough money for cars and all this kind of crazy stuff because the price of GameStop stock. Let me pull up the GameStop stock. It's really fascinating if you don't know the price of it. So in the last 5 days, because this is a very recent story, okay, before they really started going up, it was on January 26th. It was around the $88 range, $76 range. Well, starting on the 26th, it started going up. It went to 114, 122. By the end of the day, on January 26th, it was $145. So if you had a stock from January 25th that was $75, well, now it's worth $145. Well, by the end of the day, on January 27th, it closed at $345. So if you got in on this really quick, and this happened really fast, it went crazy. They definitely plan to go to a certain price range too. These Redditors, it became a big thing on the internet. Hey, everybody go get that GameStop stock. The highest it got was $469.42. Now, of course, it was 20 cents. Well, we're not going to go too much into that, but they were trying to go for the official nice meme, right? Now, it immediately dropped. There was some people were getting a little scared at that point, and it kind of laid into some numbers that they probably planned on this. And it dropped down to 255 from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., but it keeps going back up. And you see on Twitter, you see on Reddit where people are basically going, hold the line, like they're just going in and trying to take down the short sellers. So you have this really interesting story of these very organized groups through the hedge funds being taken down by the internet nerds on Reddit. I'm on Reddit, guys, don't worry, but I just find it funny. And now it's a lot of people that are pro GameStop that love this company and actually want to invest in the company, which is interesting. A lot of them do. Now, some of them, of course, they're just there for the money. Don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of us who wish this company would do good. I mean, think of all the game stores that have just died, and now we're pretty much stuck with digital storefronts, Walmart, Target. Does that even count anymore? Just anybody go to Target? Best Buy, though. I think Best Buy was one of the ones that were going up too, because there's this kind of desire for these stores still. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I heard futures were kind of going down. Well, over the weekend, people got involved in what's called Dogecoin, which is another thing that they went to. It's interesting. So my thoughts on this are I don't have a huge issue with people putting money where they want to. It probably should have been. I'm not surprised by this. There's a large amount of people that have extra money in their pocket from the stimulus checks, and it's going towards this. Or maybe they just want to put their money and try it because these hedge funds, with the way they've been using the shorts, it's almost like they're playing bets. So why can't we? So that's my thought. Now, I do see that there is some instability. There is potential for a lot of crashing going on, but it wouldn't just be this. I think if there is an inherent crash or a bubble that's going to pop or something that breaks over the next however much time, they're going to try to claim that these people were it, but I'm sorry. You don't build a house on on quicksand or on a poor foundation. And right now, the stock market's foundation is really shaky. So I think if we see some sort of crash, because everything's shaky with what's going on in the world, they're going to just use them as a scapegoat. Anyway, let's go into what the lamers online were saying. Now, as you can guess, I'm going to have to keep some of the spicy language a little less spicy. So let's go. More Than a Podcast says, the rich will always be richer. It's just up to us who are observing from a different ecosystem to be diligent and strike while the iron is hot. If I could, I'd invest. Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. Tony Coffee says he finds the whole thing pretty funny, to be honest, but they better not time travel because those stocks are going to go bad. Yeah, I think if you're investing in GameStop right now, I don't think there's much more of a ceiling it can go through, to be honest, guys. So we'll see. And the system is kind of surrounding it at the moment. So by the way, that's at the Goomba on Twitter. Midwest Meltdown uses some spicy language, so I'll try my best to. I like spicy things, but I can't say them on here. Good for the little guy who is making some money and what's a good word for this? And fire flower those hedge fund jerks secretly. I'm kind of glad to see GameStop have some life. It's as if someone brought back all the blockbusters. I like that. There's a hint in all of this going on, all the craziness going on, of a hearkening back to older times in brick and mortar stores. Texas Blues at Real Texas Blues on Twitter says, "Game stonks, power to the player." And there's a nice little GIF that goes along with it, and he says he finds it funny. Let's head on over to the next round of bonus points. We have... let's see. Hour a Day Gamer, who is on Twitch, says, "No idea. I have no stocks." And this seems to be the theme on this one. Lamppost Gaming says, "I don't do stocks." Now, I am curious because I haven't looked at my investments. Does this affect my investments? My wife is just putting her hands up in the air. Hopefully this doesn't mess with our investments. But she says worth it. By the way, we're also buying lots of physical monies. We have been for a while, like silver and whatnot. So we've been trying to diversify a little bit because things be crazy, and we've lived through lots of hurricanes and stuff personally. So we've seen the downside whenever you don't have a working system for a couple months. Anyway, Nerds Amalgamated tweeted, "It was a crazy few days, and I like how the media portrayed the event as some sort of crisis. It's a crisis to some people that are running these hedge funds, but a lot of those people, to be honest, have quite a bit of money already and are generally pretty safe. However, it still hurts them in the end." The C word, there are little dots behind each one of these. He says, "Yeet the rich." And then he puts a picture of the GameStop stock at a certain, what the internet would call a nice number. I'll just say that. So that is essentially what we have on from Twitter. Now, I do have something from Rowdy that he said, and if I remember correctly, Rowdy, well, you've heard Rowdy whenever he's on his own. He uses some very interesting language that I can't use. Colorful. My wife says colorful. So I'm looking it up right now, and we text each other so much that it's not good. We've spent too much texting. So whenever we were talking about it, he says to fire flower the hedge funds. I asked him, wait, is that your comment for it? He says, political or not, people from both sides are against the hedge funds right now. The short comment, yes. My actual comment's a little bit longer. He says it's okay for the rich to game the system, but when the average everyday Reddit poster of silliness finds out how they claim it's illegal. So, so that is our bonus points. We got a couple different viewpoints. Generally, it's pretty one-sided. Now, I honestly don't know anybody that runs a hedge fund, so I tried to provide as much from the other side as possible, but I don't think We're going to find too much of that here. All right, guys, thank you for listening to this episode of the Lamer Gamers Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, share the show with a lamer you know. It has been pretty much our best month without the Google sharing our show. So y'all have been doing it. I really, really appreciate it. And don't forget to check out parallaxmedia.one. We will be back in 2 weeks at the latest. I know Rowdy and I are going to do some recording. We're going to talk about on the next episode, there is a new most awarded game in town that'll be official on February 1st. So we'll talk about that next episode. And hopefully we're going to talk a little bit about why New Zealand is so popular with Xbox gamers. With our, hopefully we can get our special guest from New Zealand on, Dino from Regen E Racing. All right, guys, that's it for me. You guys have a good work week, and we will let you know what's going on the Twitter. See you at the next Lamer Gamers Podcast.